Ryan Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you. The Morning Majority, 6:30. WMAL.
8:07 on WMAL. This is the Morning Majority. Brian Neiman, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson, joined now by John Fund, columnist of the Wall Street Journal, who's up in New York City, where there's a certain congressman who's gotten a lot of attention, we'll put it that way, the last couple of days. So, John, do you think that Anthony Weiner can survive this, or is he going to be forced to resign from office?
Survive in what sense? Can he hang on to his congressional seat for the next 18 months? Maybe. Although I think pressure for him to resign will continue to build. I think they're going to have frank and candid exchanges of views about what future job, placeholder job Mr. Weiner might get should he resign from Congress. But in any event, his district is about to be eliminated through redistricting. The state legislature in New York has to cut 2 seats from New York's delegation. One of them has to be in New York City. I think Congressman Weiner looks like a perfect candidate for, shall we say, not having a seat to sit down in.
Now, is that a decision that was already made, or one that the legislators go, this is a perfect opportunity to get rid of him?
No, it had not been made.
Right.
In fact, they were agonizing about, which game of musical chairs they were going to have to play. But I think Congressman Weiner has presented them with a solution to their problem.
Well, then why doesn't Nancy Pelosi or somebody from the New York caucus get to him right now and say, just resign? Make this go away right now.
They already have?
I don't know. I mean, then why hasn't he? Then why hasn't he left?
They've effectively told him he is no longer welcome in the caucus. That you could walk through his deepest popularity in that caucus and not get your ankles wet.
Okay, but if you're Nancy Pelosi or I guess Chuck Schumer's in the Senate, but I mean he seems to be the lead dog up there. Wouldn't you publicly say we want Anthony Weiner to resign? No,
you would not, because if he continues to say no, you're embarrassed. It means that you can't control your own party. So the bottom line is you continue to build public pressure through indirect means, and you find some face-saving way that he can get out. Look, Congressman Weiner is not wealthy. He needs the paycheck. I mean, he gets $180,000 a year plus all the benefits. At some point, I suspect a rich Democratic donor is going to find some face-saving way of getting him out. But until now, Weiner loses all of his leverage the minute he gives up his seat.
John,
why not stay if you're selfish? Which, of course, Congressman Weiner clearly has proven he is.
I'm sorry, John. Didn't mean to step on you. One of the questions that has sort of come up this morning is we have seen a few Republicans start to enter the fray, saying he needs to leave. Now, the old saying is, if your enemy is sort of self-destructing, stay out of the way. Do you think it's smart of them to get involved in that discussion?
Well, remember, if you're asked a direct question...
You sort of have to answer it, I guess.
Exactly. I don't think anyone is volunteering those kind of suggestions. I don't think Eric Cantor decided to hold a press conference to make that announcement.
But I think that, correct me if I'm wrong...
Priebus.
Yeah, Priebus did sort of volunteer it on his own.
Well, he's a political partisan. Right. He's not an elected official. I think that you can satisfy the base with having someone who's not highly visible make that kind of call.
Somebody has to go on record, in other words, just to get it sort of like, we don't agree with it. We don't like what's going on.
With how Congressman Chris Lee of New York was handled, I mean, Chris Lee of New York sent one photograph of himself shirtless to a single person, and he left immediately within hours. Clearly, the Democratic caucus has decided to handle this differently. I'm not saying which approach is right. I'm simply saying that Weiner's behavior, especially as it starts tumbling out in the next few days, is certainly far more extensive than anything Congressman Lee did.
All right. How popular was he before this in New York City and also within the Democratic Party?
He was respected for being an attack chihuahua. He would sink his teeth into just about any Republican, and he had a large fan following in the Democratic base. But he was a loner. He was a camera hog. The joke was that he was Chuck Schumer without the charm.
I think he can look forward to a great future as head of Media Matters or something. I look forward to that appointment.
That would be perfect for him.
Yeah, it would be a good job for him. Do you see him? Are his chances of moving up in the Democratic Party completely gone now? I mean, there was always talk about him possibly being a mayoral candidate. Is that completely wiped out now, in your opinion?
Right?
I think his chances of getting his own reality show are dramatically higher now.
Wow.
Or
The American
or
dream,
becoming
my
a
friend.
CNN host, apparently.
Yeah, that's right. He could always work for CNN.
Oh, no. Elliot Spitzer runs a fiction broadcast.
All right, we got that working for us. On the Republican side of things, we were kind of scratching our heads because Newt Gingrich got into the race, and it was a tough start for Newt Gingrich, and now he's apparently on vacation, on a cruise in Greece. Is he serious about wanting to be the president if he's taking a vacation already?
Look, Greece is the home of democracy. They invented it 3,000 years ago and have managed to turn it into the world's largest debt crisis now. I think that's a very instructive place to learn stuff.
Yeah, but on a cruise? Not actually in the city?
You don't have to unpack your bags every place you go.
Right.
Come on.
It's an everyman sort of thing as well. What of this poll from the ABC and Washington Post showing Romney up 2 with registered voters over Obama, and I think tied with adults? That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
No. Look,
maybe it's because I have such low expectations for Romney.
I don't care who is ahead in the polls at this point.
Right.
We're 18 months out, and the polls measure name identification more than anything else. There are 3 poll questions that actually matter now. What is President Obama's personal approval rating? What is the approval rating of his policies? And what lead does he have over a generic no-name Republican? And the answer to that is below 50% in all 3 cases. And in terms of his economic policy, he's at 40% approval. Those are all danger signals. Now, if you want to match all the Republican candidates against him, Romney will do the best because he has the highest name ID. Still, to this day, even though he announced this week, nobody knows what a Pawlenty is.
Right.
No, nobody does. But will enough people know of Pawlenty? I mean, can there be somebody? I mean, do you see this as, the Republicans normally, typically, it's the next guy, who's in line.
This time.
Why is it different this time?
Well, because we don't have a clear, obvious front runner because Mitt Romney has not nailed down the party the way that a Ronald Reagan or a Bob Dole did in previous years. Look, Romney, depending on the poll you look at, has the support of between 19 and 25% of Republicans. That is a significant lead, but given his name ID, not insurmountable. The bottom line is the Republican Party has the most competitive, open-ended contest I have ever seen in my lifetime. I think competition is a good thing. It's good in baseball. It's good in business. It should be good in presidential politics. And by the time people vote in New Hampshire and Iowa and South Carolina and Nevada, all of these candidates are going to be well known. We have a debate coming up next week. And I think even though it's very amusing to discuss all of these preliminary polls,
right,
the average person is getting on with their summer vacation and the serious business of living.
When is the deadline for somebody to decide to get into the race?
I think it's effectively, even if you're well known and have an enormous amount of money, I think it's effectively Labor Day.
All right. John, always good to have you on the program. Thanks very much.